Our first story puts the HOA in their place in a funny twist that I didn't expect. You'll love it too. Self-metering flower pot defeats HOA, posted by JMP817. When I was in high school back in the late 90s, one of my teachers shared a story with the class in order to explain why we would have a substitute teacher in the next week. This is by far my favorite story in the vein of malicious compliance. My teacher was in his late 30s, married for only a couple of years, and over the summer, he and his wife bought their first house together. As is typical, the house was in a development that had an HOA. While he wasn't necessarily thrilled at the idea of a meddling HOA, it is a necessary and unavoidable evil. He went through their CC&Rs with a fine-tooth comb and decided that while there was some stuff that he wasn't a fan of, overall he could live with it, so they signed the papers and they bought the house. About a week after they move in, they get a non-compliance letter stating that the tree in their front yard was not an approved species and it must be removed. Problem is, the tree was native to that spot, was an estimated 80 to 100 years old, and was a pecan. I mention the type for two reasons. First, a pecan produces nuts, obviously, and that's why the HOA said it can't be in the front yard. After all, a lawnmower flings a rogue pecan through a neighbor's window, and there will be an issue. The second issue is that this was in the Dallas, Texas area. The pecan is the state tree of Texas, and as such, gets a little legal protection. Basically, to cut one down, you need to have a permit. To get that permit, you have to show the tree is diseased or a hazard. Just being in the way is not sufficient. So my teacher is upset as the tree is large, provides lots of shade, and he likes eating pecans. He writes back to the HOA, who turn a deaf ear and point to the CCR and refer him to their legal team for any further questions. He then contacts the county and state, who both come back with he can't remove the tree without a permit or he will face a large fine and/or jail. He copies that letter and he sends it along with his own letter in a certified envelope to the HOA lawyers. The lawyers come back that the CC&R is binding. He is not allowed to have fruit or nut producing trees in his front yard, but ornamental trees of flowers and flower pots, this part is important, are fine. If it isn't removed in 30 days, they will begin fining him. At this point, he gets his own lawyer and it turns it over to him. A couple of months go by, and we are to the part of the story where he is explaining why there will be a substitute. He will be going to court to have a judge weigh in on the matter. The next week comes, and after the court hearing, he comes in, and he says that basically he lost, as the judge ruled the CC&R did apply and that the tree had to go. However, since it was a native tree at the time of development, the HOA would be responsible for all cost of removal, not him as the homeowner. Now, most people probably would have just let it go at this point. Sure, you lost the tree, but it isn't costing you anything. Not my teacher, nah. The man decided it was time to protest the overreaching HOA and their absurdity. So, he got to reading. After going through the CC&Rs thoroughly, he took a trip to Home Depot and bought some hose, fittings, and a nicer Kohler toilet. He sat the toilet up in the middle of the yard, right where the tree had been, and he ran the hose and the fittings to his outside faucet so that it was hooked up for water in, not hooked to a sewer. This is the front yard after all. He then dumped some potting soil in the bowl and planted some decorative flowers. It took a few weeks, but the non-compliance letter came in stating that he had house waste in his front yard and it must be removed within 72 hours or he would be fined. He wrote back that there was no house waste. They responded again, and he stated they needed to come show him where this supposed waste was. The next day, an HOA guy comes out and points right at the toilet and says it cannot be there, it is an eyesore. My teacher responded, yeah, sorry you feel that way about my self-watering flower pot, but I see nowhere in the CC&Rs that state what style a flower pot is or is not allowed. The HOA guy gets verbally heated and threatens to call the cops, to which my teacher agrees. Having his bluff called, the HOA guy leaves. A week or so goes by, and the class that I am in is pestering our teacher every day for new stories on this. He said he got a letter from their lawyers, which he sent straight to his lawyer. His lawyer agreed with him that the CC&R in no way, shape, or form puts any qualifiers or limitations on flower pots, and as the flowers are clearly visible, it doesn't constitute debris or trash in the yard. A few back and forth things happen between the lawyers, and then the HOA moves for a trial, which gets the same judge as before. The judge reviewed the case and dismissed it as frivolous. He did put in his remarks or decision something along the lines of, while the defendant's choice of a flower pot is eye-raising and it isn't traditional, there's nothing illegal about his use of a commode as art in his yard. The plaintiff has failed to demonstrate any sound reason this would violate any existing rules and bylaws of their association. HOA passed a stupid decorating rule posted by Jack's Magic Man. Our board was tired of seeing people leave decorations up too long after holidays ended, so they passed a rule last July that we could only have decorations up 15 days prior and must be taken down 15 days after a holiday. Some people might think that that rule is okay, but I like to decorate for Halloween on October 1st to have the decorations up all of October. I don't think that's unreasonable, and I liked having Christmas up, it was a tradition, on the weekend after Thanksgiving. Everyone is out for the holiday, we make a big deal of it, and we take Halloween down the weekend after Halloween, and Christmas came down in the weekend after New Year's. It isn't up all year. When they passed this rule, I was livid. I decided that they never mentioned which holidays we could decorate for, so the first thing that I did was I go out and I buy red, white, and blue lights. I decorated for the 4th of July, and you better believe that I left those annoying lights up until July 19th. Problem is, there really aren't any major holidays from July onto October. But the HOA did not say it had to be a major holiday. After July 19th, I decorated for International Beer Day, which was on August 4th. How do you decorate for that? Well, it was the same red, white, and blue lights up for the 4th of July, but I removed the sign that said Happy Independence Day and then replaced it with a sign that I made myself that read Happy International Beer Day. On August 19th, I changed the sign to Happy National Aviation Day. I kept the same lights up though. Next was Labor Day. Yep, just changed the sign again. On September 19th, I started celebrating Rosh Hashanah, because again, they never indicated which holidays we could decorate for. I removed the Happy Rosh Hashanah on October 1st and changed it to Happy Sukkot. But I went all out for that. I created a booth out of my Halloween casket decorations and put little figures taken from my Halloween decorations into them. I kept this up over the holidays, where I started with Veterans Day after Halloween and then went to Thanksgiving and Hanukkah. The board met March 8th, and they tried to pass a rule saying which holidays we could decorate for, but they couldn't get the vote when they tried to just include New Year's, Valentine's, 4th of July, Halloween, and Christmas. They didn't include any Jewish holidays, and our Jewish neighbors didn't like that. They didn't include any non-Christian holidays like Ramadan, and a lot of people voiced their displeasure with that. So they're going to meet again on April 10th, and I think they're just going to change the rule to make the decorations come down for the holidays in a reasonable time and not put restrictions on when we can start. Now, I can sort of understand not wanting people to leave decorations up all year. You see a house with decorations up in March that were from Christmas time, but limiting when we could put them up is what made me upset, especially since it isn't very fun to have decorations up just 15 days before a holiday. But there had to be a better way to make a rule about it. It's not like it was a problem. Maybe 1 or 2 houses left them up longer than most, but for the most part, you're passing a rule that affects everyone for just 1 or 2 people. Adventures in Condo HOAs, posted by GingerSnap9210. So, background info. I have just purchased my first piece of real estate, a condo of my very own. It is on the 3rd floor of a 4th floor building with a gorgeous lake view. Another important piece of info is that the previous owner apparently never cleaned, like ever. They were the only owners since the condo was built in 2004, and it was absolutely disgusting when I moved in. I'm talking layers of dried on food spills all over the kitchen, used acne patches stuck to the bathroom cabinets, and so on. Spent the first month bleaching the entire inside. And that, my friends, is when we arrive at our main story. As I noted, the gorgeous view was a huge selling point of this particular unit. It has a beautiful deck overlooking a great lake and a pool. However, it was covered in slimy green mold and algae. After I made the inside habitable, I wanted to get the deck in shape for the upcoming warm weather. I checked the rules documents and it said nothing about washing your deck, so I presumed, like at my previous rental condo, that a courtesy heads up to those below you was the MO. I head down to the first floor, I introduce myself to the neighbor 2 floors below, and I let her know that I'd like to power wash my deck. She tells me to go ahead and do whatever I need to do, just let her know when I settle on an exact day and time. Great! So I head upstairs to the second floor. Enter neighbor Kelly. Kelly is a renter of 15 years, and before I can even finish my request, she just says, no, that's definitely not okay with me. I explain that my deck is growing things, and her response is just, well, decks get dirty, that's just how it goes. She's simply aghast that I would ask this inconvenience of her. She'd have to move her furniture, unless the office explicitly gives me permission that she is not on board. So, come Monday morning, I head right to the office. Apparently, Kelly is a known annoyance, and the property manager and HOA board president are apologetic. Luckily, the board is on meeting tonight, and they can draft a policy on deck washing. A week later, I get an email that Kelly has lobbied a member of the board, and as a result, power washing of decks is not allowed. Apparently, some neighbors dislike the sludge that drips down as a result. But good news, I can wash my deck the old-fashioned way with a scrub brush, garden hose, and soap. Cue malicious compliance. What would have taken 15 minutes of power washing turns into an entire day of scrubbing. I mix a homemade, eco-friendly deck wash that needs to be scrubbed on, left to sit for 15 minutes, and then rinsed off. Due to the level of grossness, it took many applications, and disgusting green suds are flying everywhere. Kelly is fuming. She did not realize that soap would be a part of the deal when I informed her of my new washing plans. I guess she thought she had successfully limited me to just a garden hose. She is very upset that there are suds on her windows and door. Threats of reporting me to the board ensue. Patio doors are slammed. Angry texts are sent. On my way to work Monday, I popped my head into the office. They had received complaints from Kelly and told her that I had permission for everything. Haha, I have not heard from her since. Good news and bad news updates from OP. Well, sadly for anyone hoping for continued Kelly drama, the whole thing was so frustrating I actually just ended up covering my deck in plastic IKEA deck tiles that can be mopped clean and washed in the tub and stored over the winter. I just didn't feel like having a fight every spring over this. Well, I take my spite in smaller doses. 2 groups of sparrows keep building their nest on poles on my deck and they keep falling down. I sweep up all the sticks, and gosh darn it, so many of them just happen to fall down through the slats onto Kelly's deck. What a shame. HOA towing help, posted by Winter Dandelions. In my condo complex, as a homeowner in Florida, I parked my car in a lot on the property by the pool alongside about 8 other cars around 9 p.m. at night. I have multiple cars, so 2 were in my driveway, and I needed an extra spot for the car for a few days. 10 days later, my car is missing. I call the HOA and they said they had it towed for overnight parking in a pool area. I was confused because many cars park there overnight and there's nothing in the bylaws against that. I called the towing company and they said the same thing. I said there was no rule and they said that they would call me back. They then said they remembered that my car was actually towed because it was considered an abandoned vehicle for having all 4 tires flat. I then stated, how would I have driven it into the spot in that case? The towing company then hung up and called me back, saying only 1 tire was flat and the HOA declared it abandoned. I had to pay $575 to get it back, and they stated that they would email me with my receipt with photo evidence of my tire being flat. It was not flat when I left it there. The towing company did not send me any receipt or photo and will hang up when I try to call them. My HOA will not reimburse me, and my credit card company cannot help since I don't have the receipt. The credit card transaction is not a receipt legally. The cops can't help since they consider it a civil matter. Do I have a case for small claims? In the bylaws, it states the common area may be enjoyed by all HOA members and guests, and there is nothing about abandoned vehicles stated. Also, to add the icing on top, 3 months after this incident, they placed signs all around the parking lot saying no overnight parking, which makes me think they knew what they did was wrong. Please help. The advice: if you go to small claims, sue both the HOA and the towing company in the same suit and let the court figure out who owes you the money back. Best advice here: pit them off against each other by suing them both. No rule and shifting explanation, you should sue everyone involved. Yeah, OP, that leaves it out of your hands and in theirs, and hopefully they will do what's right. Good luck. Screw your HOA and its ridiculous rules. Posted by 321 Backup. Back in high school, I was all about my car. Don't get me wrong, it was a rolling POS, but it was my car. It had a trade-in value of maybe like $5, but it was my car. I was learning how to take care of it, by which I mean I found where the dipstick was and how to pull it. I hadn't yet moved on to tire inflation, one step at a time. Anyway, one day after school, I drove over to my friend's place. We jump out, pop the hood, pull the dipstick, check the oil, and it was fine. So we put the hood back down. I had no idea what an HOA was or what it meant. I was just a happy, ignorant teenager, eager to demonstrate how responsible I was with my wheels. A few days go by and we're hanging out at my friend's place when his mom comes home. She starts giving us the business in that "I'm annoyed but trying not to be" voice about a warning she received from the HOA regarding repairing cars in your driveway, complete with the photo of my POS with the hood up. Really, she was being pretty good, though clearly annoyed. Well, we explained that we weren't repairing anything. I was just checking the oil level and I didn't even need any tools. See, the picture just had the hood up. So she softened up quite a bit after that, and the focus of her annoyance shifted from us to the HOA, since it's entirely reasonable for anyone to check the level of oil in a car. Well, she finds a copy of the HOA rules, and we all read them together, and well, sure enough, there's a bylaw that says you can't repair a car in the driveway. I protest that I wasn't repairing anything, I was just checking the oil. Reading the exact rules on exactly what was forbidden sparked an idea. So I look at my friend, raise an eyebrow, and say, "Fight the power? Fight the power." I propose my plan to his mom and ask for permission since she's going to have to deal with the fallout. She's on board since she thinks this is supremely stupid, and we set in motion. Cue the malicious compliance. Every day after school, my friend and I drove our POS machines to his place, parked in their driveway, raised the hoods, and just looked at the engines. No tools, we weren't even near them. We didn't check the oil, we didn't so much as touch them nor wipe them down with a rag. All we did was expose them to the birds, the sky, and God above to just let them breathe. After a while, I got bored, so I started setting up an easel and drawing my engine, 10 minutes at a time. My friend had to one-up me, so he decided he needed some tasteful artistic photos with his engine. He judged the best photos would be him laying over the engine shirtless, stroking and fake kissing it. Just absurd, over-the-top, moronic high schooler stuff. Predictably, the HOA was on us like stink-on crap. The warnings quickly turned into fines, complete with pictures of both vehicles with their hoods up. Then more pictures with mine with its hood up and an easel in front. Then even more pictures with my friend's with his hood up, him laying in the engine compartment and me taking pictures of him with a camera. Soon enough, his mom let us know that it was time for the monthly HOA meeting. Of course, all three of us had to go in person to protest the fines. So the motley pair of us show up along with his mom and his mom's stack of fine notices. I bring along my engine drawing, and we printed some of my friend's engine photos larger than normal. After a while, it was new business time, and my friend's mom steps up. I'm pretty sure they expected her to play the "my son and his friend are morons, please make these fines go away since I don't know what they're doing" sympathy card. Nope, not a chance. She politely, but firmly, attested that she was being sent fines for something that wasn't in the bylaws, and asked the board to stop. One of the board members spoke up, saying that working on cars was against the bylaws, and clearly that's what was going on since both the hoods were up. Oh, you should have seen their faces when she corrected them that the bylaw said no repairs were allowed, that there were no repairs going on in any of the pictures since no tools were visible, and that we were just doing art projects for school. Even longer faces were seen when she showed my, truthfully completely terrible, drawing of my engine, along with the date stamped a couple weeks ago pictures. This was back when film cameras stamped a date directly on the picture, of my friend trying to seduce his engine. The HOA president called for a 5-minute recess, during which the board huddled in a corner of the room. After the recess, the president succinctly said, "Ma'am, we are going to dismiss all your fines. Have a nice evening." We dang near danced out of that meeting. Being the obnoxious crapheads that my friend and I were, we had to do the drawing and photo routine a few more times just to make sure they weren't going to start sending more fines. They wisely didn't, and being victorious, we soon found other ways to annoy them. HOA secrets exposed, tax evasion, fraud, and extortion. How I uncovered it. Find out how by clicking on the video on the screen. You don't want to miss this story, and I will see you there.